There was electricity. It was spine-chilling.
For National League playoffs between Houston and Philadelphia were, without question, the most action-packed league championship series in history.
Great athletes, they rise and they get the job done.
You got the feeling that those games could go on and on and on, like a heavyweight championship bout where both fighters can withstand punches.
This was a real bunch of battlers and people that weren't lovey-dovey to each other all the time either.
This was not the good ship Phillies, you know, this was not a happy bunch of people.
There was such a chip on the club's shoulder that it worked to our advantage. It was almost like we weren't going to be denied. No matter what happened, we weren't going to be denied.
We were playing for a lot then, and the object of the game is to win the game, and you have to do whatever you can.
We had 25 guys that wanted to play. We didn't have 3 or 4 happy to be on the bench. We had 25 guys who wanted to play.
It's such a trite saying. Hey, we did it for our fans. It was truly for all of us.
The love affair between the Philadelphia fans and that ball club was something I'll never forget.
My name is Dallas Green. A baseball life can be filled with equal parts joy and equal parts heartache. The prestige and glamour of the big leagues are often balanced by countless lonely hours away from home. But if you're lucky, with a lot of sweat and hard work, you eventually get the taste of glory. In the fall of 1980, I got the taste of glory. Yet glory can be very hollow unless it's shared. That autumn, I shared it with 25 men who would run through a brick wall to win a ball game, with a staff of dedicated coaches who knew what it took to win, with an owner and general manager as close to me as family, and with a few million people who call themselves Phillies fans. These were our glory days. This is our story. In order to tell the story of the 1980 Phillies, you have to go back to 1972. That was the year that owner Bob Carpenter turned over the team to his 32-year-old son, Rollie. Paul Owens took over as general manager, and I was appointed director of minor leagues and scouting. The three of us made a pretty good team. In 1973, we brought in Danny Ozark from the Dodgers organization to take over as manager.
I feel very optimistic about the future. I think the personnel in the Philly organization is of top caliber. The young players that we have.
Danny Ozark was the perfect man for the job. While stressing the importance of sound, fundamental baseball, his easy, relaxed style created an atmosphere in which our young talent could blossom. And blossom it did. By the mid-70s, the club was clearly the cream of the National League East. Anchored by homegrown sluggers Mike Schmidt and Greg Lazinski, the Phillies offense featured a balanced attack that could beat you big or small. The pitching was led by the incredible Steve Carlton, one of the premier power pitchers in the history of the game. Under his wing, young arms like Larry Christensen and Dick Ruthven could learn the art of winning from one of the true masters. If the 70s Phillies had one trademark, it was great defense. Catcher Bob Boone and shortstop Larry Boa, along with Mike Schmidt, were growing an impressive collection of gold gloves. And when Paul Owens, whom I affectionately call the Pope, needed more pieces to the puzzle, he would go out and acquire a Gary Maddox or a Bake McBride to round out the squad. It would often cost the club some of the kids I was trying to develop, and the Pope and I would get into some major battles over the subject. But usually, by the season's end, I would get over my pouting long enough to join him in a glass of champagne to toast the division champions. Starting in 1976, we won the National League East for 3 straight years. But something always seemed to get in the way of our pennant quest.
Rounding third, he'll score, and this league championship series belongs to the Los Angeles Dodgers.
In '79, Pope tried to get us over the hump by acquiring Gold Glove second baseman Manny Trio from the Cubs, and then plucked one of the greatest free agent plums in baseball history, Pete Rose. But things didn't go according to plan. Injuries decimated the pitching staff, and the team's lackluster play landed us in 4th place. It also cost Danny Ozark his job. I was chosen to spend the month of September at the helm to evaluate the club. It was obvious we had the talent, but the attitude was all wrong. Going into the offseason, the decision was made for Dallas Green to stay on as manager. And with Pope and Rowley firmly behind me, we were about to embark upon the most amazing roller coaster ride of our lives. The best way to look at the 1980 season was to see how many obstacles we had to overcome. And one of the first hurdles was resistance to change.
When they made the change, the switch to Dallas Green, for me it was just a completely different management style than I was accustomed to.
Went to spring training, it started with day one because Dallas had a sign up, "We, not I."
That kind of started a little bit of the huff in the clubhouse with the likes of Larry Boa and certain other players.
We sort of made a joke about it. We asked if we were going back to college or high school.
Well, the first comment was, where are the pom-poms, you know, and you know, it was the reaction that he knew he'd get, and he didn't care.
In prior years, it seemed like tee times were more important than batting practice times. In 1980, that was going to change.
Danny was well liked by a lot of players because he was a player's type manager, and not that Dallas wasn't, but Dallas wasn't afraid to, you know, jump on you at any time, whether it was good or bad.
Spring training was also a time to tinker with your roster, and that year there were some trade rumors.
There was one in the winter of 1979 that was on the docket with the Texas Rangers, and I didn't want to do it. And we would not have had 3 of the star players in 1980 that we had if we'd made the deal.
Of course, we won't reveal the players involved. Among the doubters of our program was that fine group of men that cover our team for the local papers. Most of them picked us for 4th place behind the Expos, Pirates, and Cardinals. It was true, the division had caught up to us in terms of talent. All the more reason to impress upon our guys the need to play up to their ability. By the end of the spring, some of the players had signed up with the program.
It's like the Boston Symphony Orchestra. You have a bunch of fabulous musicians, but if you don't have a maestro to put them all together.
The 2-2 pitch. Swing and a long drive. Deep left field. Out of here. Home run the ball.
As the season progressed, we were playing decent baseball, staying in contention, but still not playing up to our ability. We were clearly being carried by our 2 future Hall of Famers, Steve Carlton and Mike Schmidt, both at the prime of their careers.
Home run by Mike Schmidt. Oh, boy.
Steve Carlton was well on the way to his 3rd Cy Young Award. His impact on the club was immeasurable.
He never made a mistake. He never made a mistake, and that's what pitching's all about, making mistakes.
To me, it was like it was an advanced game of catch. It was me and the catcher. If I got the ball to the hitter, that's not too good. But if I got to the catcher, you know, that's success.
To have the comfort of knowing that Steve Carlton was going out there every 4th or 5th day, you could put a win in your pocket most of the time. And coupled with the fact that Schmitty at 3rd base was playing the type of ball that he was, excelling on defense, getting one big hit after another, not only with the home run.
Mike Schmidt, who had always been a good player, was now establishing himself as the best player in the league. So what had helped to elevate Mike's game?
When I got there, I thought Mike Schmidt thought he was the best player in the league 3 or 4 days a week. And after seeing how I approached the game, whether I was 0 for 4 or made an error, struck out or whatever, Mike became the best player in the league 7 days a week.
Pete was the central figure at a time when the team needed someone other than yours truly to be the central figure. I did not have the foundation for it. I didn't have the confidence for it.
I think I took some of the pressure from the press away from him. He was able to relax.
Somebody else that could just free me up to, you know, be Herbie Lee over in the corner and play my game.
He called him Herbie. Herbie, you're the best 3rd baseman ever to play this game. I mean, every night he'd build up Schmitty.
Pete Rose was a force inside the clubhouse. He had been through it all. He was a guy that constantly reinforced our philosophy that we were going to play and win as a team. On May 22nd, another obstacle presented itself as a proposed player strike threatened to cancel the season. Only a last-ditch compromise between the players and the owners delayed the labor problems another year. Don't even like to think about that. One of the cornerstones of our philosophy was to create competition. Veterans no longer had the right to play just because they were veterans.
I mean, you come in the clubhouse and you see a guy like Gary Maddox out of the lineup, and the next day you see Greg Lazinski out of the lineup.
Lonnie Smith was on my tail, and he was trying to win a job also.
Just when I thought that I wouldn't make it to the big leagues, Dallas gave me the opportunity to be in the big leagues.
Keith Moreland and Lonnie Smith made an immediate impact. They both finished the season hitting over 300 and brought a youthful exuberance to an otherwise Mr. Cool veteran clubhouse. Had they failed to perform, it would have been difficult to sell the program. Other young players like starter Bob Walk stepped up and got the job done.
We kind of had a little bit of pride among ourselves that, we might not be, the elite guys that are going to carry this team, but when it comes time for us to do something, we're going to, do the best we can.
The bullpen was filled with kids like Dickie Knowles, Warren Brewstar, and Kevin Saucier. The naysayers said we had too much youth to contend, but I guess it just proves that you don't have to be old to have character. And with this volatile blend of rookies and veterans, we were always looking for leadership. The bench was where we found it.
The bench and with Gigi and George and Keith Moreland and Lonnie and those guys, I mean, we had a good bunch. We had a good bunch, and a lot of guys could do a lot of different things. But we still had to get it going.
We still only got one hit, man. Let's go.
By the All-Star break, we were only a game out of first, but still only 6 games over 500. That kind of underachieving only brought more yelling and screaming and benchings, and some of the veterans didn't like it.
I was asked to go in there and say, hey, if you got something to say it to her face. And when I went in there, because it was supposed to be an open door policy, I don't think he liked that I challenged him at that particular time.
Dallas and I, oil and water throughout the year.
In fact, I was mad at Dallas, so I didn't want to talk to him anyway.
This was not the good ship Phillies, This was not a happy bunch of people.
On August 10th, we reached rock bottom. We lost a doubleheader to the Pirates to complete a 4-game sweep and put us 6 games behind the Pirates and the Expos.
And in between games, Dallas let them have it.
I remember Bill Conlon, the writer who was covering it, said, I didn't need to get access to the clubhouse. He says, I heard it all the way down the hallway.
He probably had the best clubhouse airing out of anybody.
The decibels were up and the bleeps were heavy. I was sick and tired of their Mr. Cool approach and told them all that if they didn't want to play the way we wanted, they could turn in their uniforms. End of story.
After that doubleheader in Pittsburgh, everybody wrote that team off.
That kind of clubhouse tirade is risky. Sometimes the team will just quit on you. But to their credit, those guys looked themselves in the mirror and started to play hard. By the end of the month, we were just a half a game out. Part of our resurgence was due to the incredible season of Tug McGraw. After coming off the disabled list in July, Tug was virtually unhittable.
All I had to do was agree on the sign from the catcher and just put in my mind what I wanted to do and just let my body cash the checks.
And with his screwball personality, he seemed oblivious to all the clubhouse tension swirling around him. But there was still one more firestorm brewing. The Pope came with us on the last coast trip of the season and still saw a lack of concentration from some of the veterans. On September 1st, he called a clubhouse meeting and really let it fly.
And as he started out, he was somewhat calm. And as he got into it, his right leg was bouncing so much. He was getting so mad
He took no prisoners.
And I think it'd be a little rough. I said, if I were a pitcher in this club, I might reach over and pitch your head off like a grape.
I'm saying, Pope, slow down here. You're going to have a heart attack.
And boy, Pope went off, and I'd never seen him do nothing like that. So I was kind of sitting in the back of that meeting going, wow.
Oh, I've been yelled at before. Pope and I are good friends as well, but, you know, he challenged me to a fight.
More than half of you in this room probably could lick me, but I said, you may knock me down and out. I said, soon Don Seeger gets ice on me and all that, I'll be back knocking on your door.
Kind of realize where Dallas got some of his training from now.
What Dallas and Pope, I guess, were trying to get across for the last couple of months is that nothing was important other than this baseball team for the next 2 months.
After that meeting, we had cleared our biggest obstacle, ourselves. From that day on, we played with heart and soul, winding down the season with an incredible stretch drive. We won 23 games after September 1st, 16 by 1 run. Tightrope baseball at its best.
2-2 pitch, struck him out, and that's the ball game. The Phillies win it, 3-2 in 10 innings.
Drops a bunt, it's fielded by the pitcher, throw to the plate, throw is wild, Phillies win the game.
On September 9th, we beat the reigning world champion Pirates in extra innings, and they were done. In every great season, there always seems to be an X factor, that one element you didn't count on to help you. Down the stretch drive, our X factor was Marty Bystra. On the 10th, we decided to give this September call-up his first start. All he did was reel off 5 straight wins and earn Pitcher of the Month honors in the National League. What a story.
I was just trying to go in there every day, and when I was called upon to do my job, that's all I was concentrating on doing. It was primarily a veteran ball club, and as Ron Reed used to tell us, rookies are to be seen and not heard.
On September 22nd, Lefty beat his former team, the Cardinals, for an incredible 6th time that year, and that was it for them. We won 21 of our last 28 road games. That's the mark of a champion. Only the Expos stood in the way of the postseason. On Friday, September 26th, they came to the Vet for a 3-game series of nail-biting baseball. With the score tied 1-1 in the bottom of the 9th, up stepped one of the true unsung heroes of the 1980 team. We had 4 against the Cubs at home and a 3-game set in Montreal for all the marbles. All we did was sweep the Cubs, including a nail-biting game that featured a 2-run Cubs rally in the top of the 15th, only to be followed by a 3-run Phillies rally in the bottom.
Swing and a ground ball, base hit. Phillies win it 6-5. Maddox scores. Trio delivers with a throw.
With 3 games left, we were dead even with the Expos, and there seemed to be a certain air about the ball club.
I think we went into that series with such an attitude that we overcame anything that we did wrong.
It was eerie almost, because on that plane trip to Montreal to win the regular season, it was like, what a confident bunch of players. It was like, this series is over.
When we went to Montreal, it wasn't, I don't know, it was just a feeling, just a personal feeling that they had no chance.
I think a lot of that is Pete Rose and the fact that he instilled confidence in the club.
Pete was the kind of guy that would go right out on the field during batting practice when no one else was there but the Expos and us. And Pete would just go out there in his uniform and kneel down on one knee and talk to the other team as they were coming out and flat out tell them they couldn't win this game.
Here's the 2-0 pitch. Fastball, long drive. Watch that, baby.
In Game 1, Smitty drove in both runs in a 2-1 victory. He now had hit meaningful home runs in the last 4 games. Those who thought he wasn't clutch just weren't paying attention.
47.
And now it was down to one more win for the division.
Long
days journey into night here in the Olympics.
After a long rain delay in the chilling, wet cold of Montreal, we began one of our most unusual glory days.
Old Scott throws out off as Scott trying to score, and he is out at home plate.
Base hit, left field. Rose is being held. Oh, McBride is held up, and they're going to get him in a rundown, or are they? He is safe. Oh, I don't believe it. Green light, base hit, center field. The Phillies are going to go ahead. Now they got Schmidt in a rundown, 2-run score. Schmidt's in a rundown, still in a rundown. And they get Schmidt, and now they're trying to get Lisinski. They do! Unbelievable! A double play, but the Phillies go ahead 3-2. Pop up. Manny Trio right there. Oh, he dropped it! I don't believe it!
Manny Trio had the best hands of any second baseman I ever saw, and I played 17 years. I mean, he had great hands. For some unknown reason, it went in his glove and came out.
I mean, if that happens, we all want to catch the ball, but since it was my time to boot one, I guess.
He takes me out. Manny, I said, Dallas, Manny dropped the ball. I didn't. The guy hit it straight in the air. I said, why don't you take Manny out and let me in?
There he goes. Pitch out. Pitch out. He is safe. Oh, no. I don't know. Another error.
Whitey was always a Phillies fan. I mean, he always wanted the Phillies to win. I don't care where they were in the standings, and he'd take the games to heart.
Bouncing ball, tapped softly, third base. Perry's charges, he throws.
Oh yeah, another obstacle, the umpires.
I gotta see a replay.
In the last 2 months of the season, there were dozens of times the whole thing could have fallen apart. But this team had no quit.
And we went into the thing saying, you know, we're gonna win this or we're gonna die.
With our backs to the wall, up stepped one of the true gamers on the team, playing on bad knees and having Keith Moreland breathing down his neck all summer. Bobby just kept his head up and waited for a chance at redemption. And with the season on the line,
Base hit to center field. McBride rounding third. He stumbles, but he's still gonna score. Boone heading for second base. Tie ball game. Boone delivers with a single to center. Down to the last out. Boone a base hit. McBride scores. And this game is 9-4.
in the top of the 10th with Pete Rose on first, up stepped our MVP. Some wondered whether he should be batting at all.
Don McCormick was on deck. He was a rookie catcher who had never been to bat in the major leagues.
To walk Schmidt, even though first base was occupied, might have been pretty good strategy by Dick Williams.
Long drive, what's that, baby? Way out of here. Home run. Mike Schmidt. Phillies lead 6-4.
I remember saying he buried it. I don't know why, because he hit it so hard. I guess it was a home run off the bat.
Schmidt. Long drive to left field. He buried it. He buried it way back. Out of here. Home run. Mike Schmidt puts the Phillies up 6-4. And the Phillies greet Schmidt at the plate. Mike clasps his hand. He shakes hands with all of his teammates. What a wild scene in Montreal.
This one was a no doubt about it right off the bat, so I just pulled out he buried it. I don't think I ever said it before, and I don't think I've said it since.
And of course, now a lot of people, well, why did you pitch to Schmidt? Well, it's pretty obvious why you pitched to Schmidt, because Pete was on first, and there's no place to put him. You don't want to put that run at second base. I mean, Dick Williams would have been shot then.
Then we gave the ball to Tugger, who was in an incredible groove.
It was a job McGraw has done. Since July 17th, his earned run average is about 0.38. Just an incredible second half. Phillies, who have won it by a score of 6-4 on Mike Schmidt's homer.
1980 was Tim McCarver's first year as a broadcaster. In September, We activated him so he could play in 4 decades. Timmy picked a pretty memorable year to be a rookie broadcaster.
Bake, how does it rate? I'm Harry's echo.
Feels good right now. You know, I probably won't be able to, you know, really enjoy it until tomorrow, you know, once I think about it.
Drop that ball?
Matty Trio.
I'm not, I dropped the ball, but Jesus, I mean, yes, only one.
I don't think I've ever seen you drop a pop-up.
Well, I think it's always the first time, but I think I picked it at that time to drop that.
I don't know what Schmidt and Greg were doing on Greg's base at the center field, but they looked like they had a baton trying to look like in a relay race or something. That's a hell of a race, isn't it? Luzinski giving a baton to Schmidt.
Harry, I'll tell you why it was the most gratifying, because it's the best baseball these guys have played since I've been around. The best.
So, that's about it from Olympic Stadium in Montreal, where the Phillies clinched it. The Eastern Division, winning 6-4 on Mike Schmidt's 2-run E11th inning home run. Doug McGraw winning it. Gene McCurdy, I'll need a new blazer next year.
The stage was set. 5 games for the National League pennant. In a short series, anything can happen.
You know, that 5-game series it separates the men from the boys.
What followed was the most exciting LCS ever played. Now that we were in the postseason, it was time for the veterans to shine.
Swing a long drive. There she goes. Way out of here. Home run. Greg Luzinski.
Bull had to put up with a lot of adversity during the season. I couldn't have been happier for him.
Shallow left field, it's dropping, it's in for a hit, Maddox scores. Phillies lead the ball game 3-1.
Tug nailed down a 3-1 win, and we were on our way.
Drive into center field, base hit. Lonnie Smith heading for home. Cedeno's throw. Smith safe there. Maddox in second. Phillies have tied it at 3 on a clutch hit by Gary Maddox.
Game 2, we hit another bump in the road. Tied 3-3 in the bottom of the 9th, Bake McBride represented the winning run at second with 1 out.
Hit. McBride held up, though, and the bases are going to be loaded. McBride not sure if the ball was going to be caught or not.
That winning run never scored. The Astros scored 4 times in the 10th. After the game, third base coach Lee Elias shouldered the blame.
It appeared to me that Bake didn't break like he should have, or maybe I was just being a little cautious, whichever one presented into my mind at that time. But I held him up, and Puel threw a strike to the plate, and to this day, in my heart, I don't think he would have scored.
A Philadelphia native and one of the finest baseball men I've ever met, nobody felt worse than Lee on the flight to Houston. Game 3 was obviously pivotal.
And gentlemen, in my opinion, this game is it. I think whoever wins this game is going to win this thing.
I don't agree.
Okay.
I don't
Why?
agree. I think you got to win 2 more to win it, Harry.
No kidding.
Whitey was right. We somehow just had to win 2. Our next obstacle was knuckleballer Joe Niekro.
He got him with a knuckleball. So Rose goes down.
Larry Christensen had pitched in pain all year. There was some doubt as to whether he would even make the postseason roster. But after a couple gutsy performances in September, LC proved to be sound and took the ball in Game 3. For 6 innings, LC matched Niekro pitch for pitch, using his stellar defense to bail him out of trouble. Then he turned it over to the bullpen. With the game scoreless in the bottom of the 11th, Joe Morgan led off with a triple. It only took a sacrifice fly to put us in a huge hole.
Strong arm. Here comes Landeskog, and the ball game is over. Houston has won it 1-0 in 11 innings.
It was now do or die.
You might be down 2 games to none or 2 games to 1, and something inside just, you kick it. You know, it has to, if it's going to take place, it has to be now, and your back's like against the wall.
Game 4 was just another chapter in the Phillies' wild saga of postseason play. Down 1-0 with runners on first and second and no outs, Gary Maddox hit a soft liner to the mound. Then all hell broke loose.
That could be, oh, they called him out. We're going to have could have a triple play. A triple play. I don't believe it.
It was a clear short hop, and Doug Harvey behind the plate is calling this right away, and then they start throwing around to the bases, tagging bases all over the place. It's a triple play, and everybody's running off the field.
Oh, I think the Phillies were robbed here. He made the sign that that ball was trapped. And the Philly base runners were in jeopardy at that point.
That is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Boy, I don't know what else can go wrong, how many ways the Phillies can be prevented from scoring.
And I'm holding Pope. Pope wanted to get over there and get in the middle of the arm. I said, just sit here. They'll work it out.
I thought, what else can happen? You know, what else can happen to keep us from winning it?
And you just thought sooner or later, they've got to reverse this and get it right. Well, they didn't get it right.
Now, wait a minute. McBride is going back out at second. I don't see how they can call one of those runners out. Looks to me like they made some kind of a compromise.
After all that, we didn't score.
Goes the runner, and the pitch is grounded, and what a stop!
Now, Pete Rose had a pretty decent year, but not by his standards. All September, he would parade around the clubhouse saying, "Just get me to the playoffs, boys, and I'll take it over from there."
Head right field. Rose is going to score.
With our backs to the wall, Pete took charge.
There, Rose, yeah, safe at second base. 2-1 ball game. Phillies right back in this thing. Line drive right field. It is caught nicely by Leonard, but Rose is going to tag and score. The Phillies lead it 3-2. Line drive right field, base hit. Bateman tries throw into the plate. Is the strong one. This game is tied at 3.
With one out in the 10th, up stepped the Bull, looking for his second big hit of the playoffs.
Line smashed left.
What happened next is an image I'll carry in my mind forever.
For third, big wave around. Landis throws. He knocks over Bochy, and the Phillies take a 4-3 lead.
We were playing for a lot then, and the object of the game is to win the game, and you have to do whatever you can. And the play was in front of me. I knew it was going to be close, and I knew I wasn't scared of contact, nor was Bruce.
I can still see him coming, and I knew he was going to score. You know, I guess Bochy will always remember that forearm shiver.
Tug finished it off.
Ball hit the air, shallow center. Maddox coming on. Yes, there will be a 5th game.
And it was down to 1 game for the pennant. No other game summed up the 1980 Phillies better than Game 5. With the whole season on the line, what better way to start things off than with a rookie in just his 6th big league start?
If anything works in Marty Bystrom's favor is that he just doesn't know what's going on down there.
Dallas came in after the 4th game and said, "You got the ball tomorrow." So I had no idea until after the 4th game. And maybe that was a blessing, you know, somewhat, that I didn't have a lot of time to think about and prepare other than that night.
I had all the confidence in the world in Marty Bystrom, and he didn't let us down. In the 2nd inning, Bill Verdon opted to pitch to Bob Boone with 2 outs and a base open.
Boone, a base hit center field. Matty Trio scores. Maddox is going to score, and the Phillies lead it 2-1. So not walking Bob Boone cost Bill Verdon a couple of runs.
I often wondered if that managerial decision had been made by a Philadelphia manager, and you've ended up losing the game. That manager might as well pack his bags and leave town.
It's Bill Verdon.
He could be 10 ahead, 10 behind. You'd never see a change in his expression. Reminds me of my old 6th grade English teacher.
Who would that be?
Lillian Wadsworth.
I don't know about Lillian, but this series was driving me crazy. Sometime during the stretch drive, Manny Trio and Bake McBride muffed a relay play that cost the team a run. The 2 of them went out for hours and practiced balls hit into the corner. That's why we preached teamwork.
By Manny Trio.
Behind the plate, Bob Boone was simply a rock.
Real hard has it. Manny makes the play to first, safe. He is out at the plate. The Phillies have gotten another out at the plate.
The man took hit after hit and never came out.
I was blessed with a high threshold of pain. But I was so fortunate playing my career that we didn't have MRIs. If I'd had MRIs, I wouldn't have played near the number of games we played, but X-rays couldn't see the little cracks in the things.
In situations like that, all the pain goes away. I mean, if it's not broken, you play.
These championship series are inhuman, are they not, Rich?
A lot more pressure here than the World Series.
You know, the World Series is like a social event compared to this. The amount of gloom is disproportionate to the amount of glee you get when you win. I mean, after
the amount of money, too.
Ball hit well. Gapper. Walling scores. Art Howe with a triple, and Houston leads it 5-2.
Suddenly, the Astrodome had turned into a house of horror.
Just the sheer noise of the place was unbelievable.
It was like the loudest sound I had ever heard.
It was as you just ducked your head and thought, I'm just taking a break here from life. Just stop this noise.
I swear to God, I thought the Astrodome was going to fall down. That's how noisy it was in there. But it didn't intimidate us.
Now we had to overcome our biggest obstacle yet, Nolan Ryan, who had an incredible record after taking a lead into the 8th inning.
Stranger things have happened, though, Rich. We got 2 innings. We were behind 2 runs last night.
But the team that wouldn't die was not about to roll over.
On his part, the big thing right now is to keep things intact.
Pete came up to me and said, if you get on, we're going to win. I said, I'm going to get on.
Boa line drive, base hit.
First, Boa single. Then Booney legged out an infield single on 2 bad legs.
And it's going to be safe all around. Phillies have 2 men on base and nobody out.
Then up came Greg Gross with the most important little hit of the series.
Gross a bunt. It's a good one. Nolan Ryan don't play anywhere. A bunt single. Greg Gross and the Phillies have loaded.
With Ryan on the ropes, here comes Pete Rose with all his bluster, having a great time in the glare of the spotlight. Pete worked a walk, and Nolan was gone.
Comes in to score. It's a 5-3 ball game. Bases still loaded.
Keith Moreland drove in a run.
Little bouncing ball tapped.
And with 1 out, our best player came to the plate.
We needed a sacrifice fly to tie the game or hit to put us ahead. We needed something from me, and I struck out. I was stunned. The camera right by the dugout following me. Starting to think about the off season, trying to go out of my house and exist in public life in Philadelphia.
Unser, a base hit to right center field. Phillies have tied it. Aviles on his way to third. Del Unser, a pitch single, and this is a 5-5 ball game.
Del Unser goes up and gets a base hit to totally bail me out of that situation.
Then the series MVP stepped up to the plate.
And this guy will be tough. Manny Trio got a good playoff.
1 strike pitch. Trio, line drive, fair ball, left field line. Aviles scores. There's Del Unser being waved around. He's going to score. Manny Trio, at third and triple. Phillies lead at 7-5. What a comeback by this great Phil.
Unbelievable, unbelievable. Manny Trio lining a ball just inside the chalk line, and the Phillies dugout going crazy,
I'll tell you, this is an incredible comeback against Nolan Ryan, a pitcher who has been brilliant in these situations, but this club just does not die.
Oh, but the story wasn't over.
Little punch shot. That's going to drop for a hit. Terry Cole is going to score, and this game is tied at 7. I cannot believe this series. What an up and down seesaw, exhilaration, frustration series. It's been unbelievable.
The most worn out guy in the whole stadium was the champagne guy. And it kept going back and forth from clubhouse to clubhouse.
My, oh
my, what a series. Dallas Green is out talking to Tug McGraw.
Ruthven came in to relieve me. My arm was dead, baby.
It was a strange feeling because I remember coming out of the dugout thinking, I'm going to win. And I have to admit, over my career, I didn't have that feeling that often.
In the 10th, Del Unser came through again.
Smash over the head of Bergman down the right field line. Unser on his way to second base, and Dello reached with a double.
That brought up Gary Maddox, who was looking for the silver lining in an otherwise stormy season.
I was known throughout the league as a first ball, fastball hitter. All you had to do was throw it anywhere up near home plate, and I would swing at it, and I got a fastball right down the middle.
Left, a base hit, I believe, Maddox. Yes, it is. Gary Maddox a hit. Phillies take an 8-7 lead. Maddox at second base. Phillies lead 8-7 in the 10th inning.
That was the biggest hit of Gary's career and maybe the Phillies' history. Then, in the bottom of the 10th, after 2 quick outs,
Dick Ruthven has ice water in his veins.
3-2 pitch, swing and a drive right center field. Maddox is there.
I started laughing hysterically. And, it was just, it was one of those bizarre moments where you don't even realize where you are. You're just so giddily happy.
It's every kid's dream to be carried off the field on the shoulders of his teammates. And so that was a special time for me.
Gary Maddox, you're beautiful. You are beautiful, buddy. A winning hit right here.
And I'll tell you one thing, they can't call me a bum in Philly now.
John Bukovic. John Bukovic. Nice going.
I tell you what, I dreamed of this since I'm 5 years old. I swear to God I did. And I didn't know how I'd act. It's the greatest feeling in the world.
Manny, congratulations on being the MVP of probably the greatest series ever played.
Oh, thank you.
Nice going.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
We'll see you all when we get home, man. This is it. We're going all the way.
with all the excitement of the Houston series, we almost lost sight of the most important fact, that after 30 years, we had finally brought the World Series back to Philly. Eddie Sawyer, the manager of the Whiz Kids, threw out the first ball, and we figured after all these years, maybe we ought to win one for him. The Game 1 starter was rookie Bob Walk, the only logical choice after the playoffs had messed up our rotation. Kansas City quickly gave him a baptism by fire.
Well hit, left field. Smith going back. That ball's out of here. Home run for Amos Otis. Deep right center field. McBride going back. Maddox going back. Home run.
It really was kind of a situation that I was feeling, kind of poorly, I guess you'd say, after a couple innings, because, this is the big one. This is, the World Series, and here I'd put my team in a hole.
In the third, Larry Bowen served notice that we weren't going to lie down for the Royals.
You get a feel sometimes. I knew I could steal the base, but I'm not saying we were flat, but we just come off an unbelievable series in Houston, and we were just down a little bit. We were mentally, physically tired. Somebody asked me, what if you got thrown out? I don't even want to think about it, but it worked.
It was just the kind of play we needed to jumpstart the offense. Booney knocked in the first run.
Should have never doubted that they weren't going to give up in Game 1, that they were still going to make a game of it, and they certainly did.
But the inning wasn't over. Pete Rose would always do whatever it took to get on base. After Smitty drew a walk, up came the guy who was in the middle of everything, Bake McBride.
Swing it along.
After that, we never looked back. Walk settled down and got the win. And you know who was on the mound at the end.
2
pitch to Willie Wilson. Swing and a miss. He struck me out. But because he has done so often, saves the first game of the 1980 World Series. Phillies win 7-6, go 1-up over the Royals.
In Game 2, a tired Steve Carlton used his guile and his brilliant defense to stymie the Royals' attack.
Line drive, base hit down the left field line. 1 run in.
But in the 7th, the Royals broke through and took a 4-2 lead.
They're going to hold him up at third. He's going to have to dive.
The Royals didn't seem to know how much adversity we had overcome in the last 2 months. 2 runs down the 8th against one of the top closers in the game, that was nothing. Piece of cake.
Here's a pitch to Hudson. Swing and a drive into the gap in left center field, going all the way back to the fence. Here's Boone rounding third. He's being waved home. Boone scores. Hudson at second with a clutch pitch double. Quisenberry's pitch to McBride. Swing a high bounding ball over the head of Frank White. Base hit right field. Hunter scores, and the Phillies have tied it 4-4. Swinging a long drive to deep right field. Off the base of the fence. Frank McBride is being waved around. Here's Frank White strolling. He is saved, but home plate. Phillies lead it 5-4.
And this time, there was a different face on the mound.
Finally getting the World Series, and now I got a chance to get a save in a World Series. You know, I've been watching that on TV my whole life.
The 2-2 pitch. He struck Steve out, and the Phillies win 6-4, and now lead the Royals 2 games to none.
The whole city was in a state of euphoria, all except for a small group of men who brought Phillies baseball into our homes each night. Because of network rules, our broadcasters could not work the games.
Total frustration because we are not allowed to do the World Series, and after following the team all year and through the League Championship Series, to sit and watch the game instead of calling the game was extremely frustrating.
All of Harry's calls you hear during the World Series are recreations. But then again, Harry can recreate baseball better than most men can do it live. Now it was on to Kansas City. The Royal star and best hitter in baseball, George Brett, had left Game 2 with a severe hemorrhoid problem. In Game 3, he served notice that he was back.
This ball may be out of here. It is 1-0. Listen to this.
Dick Ruffin gave us a gutty performance, and once again, we came back late in the game.
Fastball, swing, and a high towering drive. This ball is out of here. Home run, Mike Schmidt.
Seems like these Phillies really can't get going until they get behind. George Brett home run in the first inning gave the Royals a lead. Phillies came back.
But with 2 outs in the 10th, Willie Mays Aikens drove a ball over Maddox's head, and the Royals showed that they had their share of character as well. Larry Christensen was slated to start Game 4, but something was wrong from the get-go.
I was battling whether I should leave the team and go to be with my father, who was in a coma, had an aneurysm, and he ended up actually passing away a few days after the parade, and I did go home to him, but I did stay, and that is no excuse, but it was something on my mind.
Extra bases. At least a double. He's digging hard. He's going to go for 3, and he'll make it.
LC never made it out of the first inning, and the Royals held on for a 5-3 victory.
Well hit. Way back. This is maybe out of here.
We could almost feel things slipping away
Willie Mays Aikens. He's just now at first base.
when something happened in the middle of Game 4 that may have turned around the series.
Dickie Knowles knocked George Brett on his back.
And he threw one up and in and put George right on his hemorrhoids.
0-2 pitch to Brett. Look out, George Brett has to hit the dirt.
So when I knocked George Brett down, I was kind of indecisive about hitting him or knocking him down, so I think that's why the pitch ended up where it did.
Stop it right now! Stop it right now!
And I could hear Fry out of this ear, you know, hollering at him, stop it right now, stop it right now.
Jim Fry wanted to charge the mound himself, and Rose ran over and stopped him.
I said, Jim, don't go out there because you got a heavyweight championship crowd and you will get knocked right on your...
I think Pete was going, he wasn't throwing at him. And I remember Fry going, how do you know? Pete goes, if he was throwing at him, it'd hit him.
Now, it's hard to say exactly what effect that pitch had on the series. But I do know that the Royals only scored 4 runs in the next 22 innings. You figure it out. Game 5 was the pivotal game. Bystrom held the Royals at bay until the 6th. Once again, that McBride to Trio connection worked like magic.
Here's Darrell Porter being waved around third. Manny Trio's relay throw, and Porter is out at home plate. What a great throw by Trio.
More familiar territory. Down by a run in the 9th, and another mistake by the Royals.
Jim Fry screamed at George Brett, move in, he might bunt. And there was no way I was going to bump. There was no way I was going to bunt being down 1 run with the potential for a home run.
Hot smash, Brett knocks it down. It's a base hit for Mike Schmidt.
It was Dell's turn to shine once again.
Swing and a smash past Akins and down the right field line. Mike Schmidt is heading for third base, being waved around third. Here is the relay throw to the plate, and Schmidt is safe at home plate. Phillies have tied the game here in the ninth.
This was obviously thrilling, and we needed to kind of even it up and stop the bleeding and get back to Philly.
And who could forget Manny?
Boysenberry. Brett picks up the ball, throws, not in time. Hunter scores, and the Phillies lead it 4-3.
By now, Tug's high wire act was getting routine. But with one swing of the bat, Al McRae almost turned the series around.
Stands, Hunter there. Can't get it foul, just barely foul.
Okay, bottom of the 9th, bases loaded. Only Tug McGraw could have scripted what happened next.
The bat ended up rolling out right out to the mound, right at my feet. And he says, you know, like, throw me my bat. And I'm telling him, you come and get your bat. You put it here, you come and get it. And just as he went to reach for it, I gave him a boom, little jab right in the solar plexus. So I let him know that even though we're friends, we're still on the field of battle.
1-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. He's out with a fastball. Tug McGraw wins another one, and the Phillies are now up on Kansas City 3-2 and going back to Philadelphia.
There was a different feeling around the city that morning.
We knew going to Game 6 at the Vet that night with lefty pitching. In our hearts, we knew we were going to win a World's Championship that night.
I told my wife, I said, it's over. And she goes, what are you talking about? She said, you just said a tough series. I said, this is over. I said, lefty's on the mound. I said, you feel it in the city.
The script is in. We win at the end. We knew what the ending was. We knew we had to go through a lot of things, but we knew what the ending was.
And on the way in, right before that 6th game, I said to Tug, I said, look, Tug, when we win this game, if you're on the mound, you know how the camera's going to be on you when, you know, after the final out. I want you to wait for me to get in there because I want to get in that picture.
Everybody could feel that something special was about to happen. Everybody but the one man who counted most.
It's something that I wouldn't allow myself to get caught up in, like, you know, this is great, because now I'm off my game. I can't be excited about, oh boy, I'm pitching against George Brett or something and hang a slider. It was like, this is great, but I'm still locked. I'm focused.
Struck him out 10 times. Out on strikes, Willie Wilson. Struck him out.
For 7 innings, Lefty toyed with the formidable Royals lineup.
He blew it by him. Strikeout number 5. Akins, he got him in there. He really broke off a hard slider.
Larry Bowe was in the middle of everything, turning a series record 7 double plays. Bob Boone, on 2 bad legs, had played every inning of the World Series. Fittingly, Mike Schmidt drove in the game-winning runs, scoring the grizzled vet Bob Boone and the young kid Lonnie Smith.
Oh yeah, a little show of emotion there. There I am at first base, pumping the old fist. Got another big hit, you know. But you know, that fist may never have been pumped hadn't those guys, Del Unser and Gary Maddox, come through those big hits to pull me out of the jam.
After 330 innings, Steve Carlton began to tire in the 8th, and it was tug time.
I almost never got into that game. I almost had to go to the hospital because down in the bullpen, the police and the horses and the dogs were all gathering at that time, and the phone rang and Mike Ryan said, "Tugger, get loose." And I went to reach for my glove, and a German Shepherd had fallen in love with my glove. And I went to reach for it, and all of a sudden, man, that dog went, "Arr!" And I backed off, and I said, "You're supposed to be on our side." And so the cop pulled him away, and I got my glove, and the dog kept his eye on me after that, and I knew I had to pitch good, otherwise that dog might come out and bite me.
The 1980 Phillies never did anything easy, and true to the script, the Royals loaded the bases with 1 out.
McGraw trying to reach back one more time. Swing and a high pop foul near the Phillies dugout. Rose and Boone both there.
I saw the ball go up, and then when I saw Booney and Pete coming together, I said, oh, God, they're going to hit each other.
And I know I'm getting close to the steps. I know this is Pete's ball, but I don't hear it. And I'm getting there. It's like, come on, we're getting near land here.
If you believe in baseball gods, you have to believe that that was divine intervention.
And Booney made a great play to get there. And I just happened to see the ball and catch it. I mean, it's something him and I practiced for about 2 months.
And now the ball pops, and I mean, my heart just sunk, and I have all these emotions, and there's Pete, and he grabs it, and he becomes a hero, and I'm looking at him, and I just wanted to kiss him then.
I mean, it was just a matter of 2 aggressive guys trying to win a World Series.
Bob and I both knew we wanted to go for a strikeout. It just seemed like a good kind of out to have at that particular point in time.
He had such great success against Willie Wilson. Willie Wilson had 230 hits in the year, and Willie got in a funk where he was really struggling with good fastballs right down the middle.
Booney was working on Willie Wilson's mind, and I was going to work his timing over it.
Strike, Willie Wilson.
I look around and there's policemen on horseback and dogs, and they're everywhere. They're lining the field.
I looked over there at the end of our dugout, and I saw that horse, and his tail went up, and kaboom. He was not stadium trained. Right there on the turf. It's just despicable stuff. And I thought to myself, if I give up a home run here, if I don't get Willie Wilson out, that's what I'm going to be. To all the fans in Philadelphia, that's what I'm going to be, laying right there on the turf. I looked over by Dallas, and there was one of the German Shepherds with the policeman there.
Now you see the Canine Corps in the backdrop.
And the Canine Corps. And so this is the 9th inning, and I need a K. When you're keeping score in baseball, a K is a strikeout. And I said, there it is! There's my sign! We know it's going to happen because I got my sign from a dog, the same dog that was in love with my glove.
Every Phillies fan remembers exactly where they were at that moment. For all the players and all the fans, a million different memories. A true sweet spot in time. And in a perfect world, it would have been accompanied by a Harry Kalas call.
I'm speechless. I've been sitting around all the time. I haven't even had a drink of champagne yet, and all I've done is smile and almost cry. I love it.
We're just tickled to be here. You know, it took us a long time to get here.
More satisfied for a lot of people. Lazinski, Schmidt, Boa, Maddox, Boone. You know, people, Maddox have been so close so many times and never reached the World Series. And for the Philly fans.
If I hadn't have gotten Wilson out, if I'd have walked him or something like that, I don't know what Dallas had in mind, but I was ready to call him out there and say, Dallas, I just have nothing left. So,
is that right?
Yeah, I was a goner.
Our pitching staff's going to be super next year. And you know,
we're thinking about next year?
Oh yeah, because
see, he's like that. He drives us crazy.
You know,
what do you mean? That's why we never give up. Next year.
We're world champions. There's a lot of people in baseball didn't think we could be. I knew in my heart we could be. I think in September, from then on, our ball players knew we could be. Paul Owens knew we could be, and he's the guy that directed this thing all the way.
It's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me in my life. And this man here and Dallas Green, Paul Owens, Dallas Green, and these ball players and coaches and our whole organization have just done a fantastic job for us.
And by the next morning, when all the laughter and all the tears had subsided, we all found out how much we meant to the city of Philadelphia.
I don't think that there was any question at the end of the 1980 season when we were in that parade how the town of Philadelphia felt about the Phillies.
They were like a 10th man on the field for us through the whole. They were unbelievable, and without them, that parade and everything about that World Series, that's something you never forget. That's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me.
Actually, we thought the parade was going to be a relaxing thing, and it just became this monstrous emotional high that was probably the greatest moment of my life.
But all the way, there were people on light posts up in the trees, and they were still, a lot of them hadn't even gone to bed. They were partying, and they were screaming, and they were part of us.
It was the greatest feeling in the world to have 1.5 million people up on that high float, throwing real flowers, not something you bought in a Woolworth or something.
You have a sense of love for these people. You can understand their pain of not having anything like that for a long period of time.
I don't think I could ever see a more awesome sight in sports. Just seeing the same expression on 1 million faces.
When we came around Patterson and made a right, and there was about another 80,000 people in that thing, I just started crying. I mean, it just was pouring, but it was happy crying.
We love you. Thank you so much. Most beautiful fans in the country. 1980 Philadelphia Phillies, world champions of baseball.
We now had in our portfolio, all of us, he's a winner.
I think that he felt that he had to bond everybody together, and maybe the best way to do it was to get everybody mad at him and we'll show him, you know, one of those kind of approaches. And it worked. It worked in the respect that he got a lot of reaction out of players.
There was no intentional conspiracy for them to throw their hatred at me. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. That they probably still hate me. And
you know, hey, that's all in the past. You know, hey, we're having good times now. We can go back and say, hey, we were world champs in 1980. Hey, Dallas, you're a great guy. You know, shake his hand. And I had fun with Dallas. I mean, you know, there's no hard feelings there.
I have a lot of respect for Dallas. Dallas and I have since discussed, you know, what happened in 1980 and afterwards. But I have a lot of respect for Dallas. And now that I'm in business for myself, I really understand what it's like to deal with a disgruntled employee.
I don't think we win a World Series without Dallas Green. He kept us on our toes. He took the heat off us and took it himself. He knew whose button to push.
Dallas was great because Dallas is a no-nonsense guy, and he's an intimidating figure because he's so big.
Oh, boy, he did not! You know, Pete Rose don't make those kind of mistakes.
Well, obviously, there were two people I think that were instrumental in that team getting over the hump. The first, and more importantly, it was Pete Rose. The second was Dallas Green. In my mind, the Phillies do not win in 1980 if Dallas Green's not the manager.
Ultimately, between Dallas and Pete, we all wanted their respect. I don't know that, I think we needed both of them in a certain kind of way. Pete in the clubhouse, Dallas for the leadership. It was good. It worked out really well.
Yeah, I guess he was the ultimate gambler. He went with the hot hand, and he came out on top.
I think it's just marvelous the way this Kansas City ball club have come back in both the 8th and the 9th inning and threatened this Phillies ball club. It's popped up. Boom, Rose, they'll have a play.
If you look at where this thing happened, it's at the end of our dugout. It's 20 steps for Pete and maybe 80 steps for me. I know I'm getting close to the steps. I know this is Pete's ball, but I don't hear it.
Because bases were loaded, I was deep, almost out by the right field line. So it was a lot hard for me to get there, and he was a lot closer.
And so as I got there, I'm waiting and I don't hear Pete. And I was getting mad. I'm saying, where is the son of a gun?
Booney's absolutely right. That probably was my ball if I'd have been holding somebody on.
And so I went up for the rebound and I dropped it and I was so mad. I had so many emotions.
It was indicative of how him and I both play. We play hard, we play alert, we play aggressive. We were just both slow.
The only thing I ask people to do when they watch this is saying, you tell me who hustled on this play, and all I can say is Charlie hustled my ass. I was the one that hustled on the thing.
It is 2 strikes on Willie Wilson. Bases loaded, 2 outs.
And there's Tug working on Willie Wilson, and then I had a flashback. Well, it wasn't too many years before that we had Willie Wilson in this ballpark and had worked him out when he was in high school, the year of the draft. It was the same year with Lonnie Smith and Dale Murphy. And we had worked Willie Wilson out here, and I said, my God, you know, but if we'd have drafted him, he wouldn't be out here facing Tug the last out. And I said, you know, all these thoughts.
He got Willie Wilson up there. I was at the door. I wasn't throwing no longer. And Irish looked at me and said, you're up throwing. I go, Irish, I'm ready. And the odds of him putting me in this game right now, and Irish looked at me and said, well, you're right. I want to be the first one out of this bullpen. So I was the first one out of that bullpen.
That last pitch could have been either a grand slam, but it ended up being a strikeout. It was a fastball right down, Peggy Lee right down the middle. And it was, you know, if it would have been me out there, it would have been a grand slam.
The ballpark, the fans, the players, everybody remembered that so well. It was like it just happened yesterday. And it didn't matter whether you were on the 700 level in center field or whether you were standing where I was on the mound or anywhere in between. Everybody felt the same level of joy. There was no contest. Nobody could feel any happier than the next person at that moment. Our fans were throwing us beers. They wanted us to have let me buy you a beer, you know? And this might be the only chance we ever have to share a beer together. The only trouble is it was like bombs coming in. And so full beer cans coming at you.
Those are great moments, you know, to have 1 million people come out and honor you, you know. And
God owed it to Philadelphia. And we felt like we were carrying this huge torch for Philadelphia. And as much as that's saying, it's such a trite saying, yeah, we did it for our fans. And it was truly for all of us.
Once we got going, guys were yelling, they were standing up, waving. It was all playing it by ear. And with the exception of Tug, I'm sure everybody played it by ear. Tug, I think, had his plan in place. That whole speech he gave.
You know, I was the last one to speak, and there were so many before me that said all the right things. Schmitty was wonderful.
I never saw so many sincere faces in that parade in my life as I did today. Take this world championship and savor it, because you all deserve it.
When I heard Schmitty talk, I said, how's anybody going to say anything that's going to be any more truthful and get to the core of all this any better than what Schmitty did?
All through baseball history, Philadelphia has had to take a back seat to New York City. Well, New York City can take this world championship and stick it, because we're #1!
It was definitely pointed towards the writers. A lot of the fans up there were offended, but, you know, they got over it.
Tugger was, I guess if I had a real special guy, I mean, they're all special to me, but I guess if I had a real special guy, Tug would kind of tug at me.
And Tug would ask me if I was pitching today. He'd say, LC, are you pitching today? And I'd say, yes, I am, Tug. And he'd say, so am I!
Well, Tug, you know Tug. See, Tug is a little, I won't say crazy, he's a happy guy. He will always keep everybody in the up and...
Well, he's Irish, you know.
He continually asked me to this day, how did you know I could do that? And I said, Tug, I just knew your heart.
Tug jumps up in the air, and that was it. It was the fans went wild. There was a celebration, and it's been going on for a long time, and certainly Tug's been celebrating for the last 20 years.
I don't want to offend anybody by saying this, but I think the ballpark is a lot like a church. I think it's a temple. It's full of spirit. And I don't necessarily mean that in a religious sense, but I'm talking about the spirit and the power among people. Oh man, when you're down on the field and everybody is intently looking for the best you've got to give them at that particular moment, how powerful is the human potential? And you're tired, it's been a long season, the guys, we're using every fabric that we have as professionals and as people to stick together and make this thing happen after so many 97 frustrating years. And everybody's like, come on, just this, don't let it slip away again, you know. And finally the moment came where for the first time in the history of the Philadelphia Phillies, the fans could go home and not have to put their head on the pillow at night and say, wait till next year. We did it! We didn't have to wait till next year, it happened.
Well, it's nice always to see the old-timers, you know, those teammates, and it's nice to be back in Philly again.
Well, this town right here, when they win, they go crazy, and that parade...
We had heard how good it would be because the Flyers had a great parade, but they said if you guys ever win it, you won't believe it, and it was unbelievable.
His Hardness, Marty Bystra. Greg Blusinski. Lefty Steve Carlton.
You guys are unbelievable, the greatest fans in the world. Thank you.
Well, it's wonderful. I recognize a lot of these faces. I don't even recognize him. My memory's getting so bad. I think it says it's Gary Maddox, but I don't believe it. Good to be back.
After 9 97 years, the team we honor tonight brought this great city and you beautiful fans its first and only Baseball World Championship.
At the reunion, when Dallas Green took and put Pete Rose's jersey on first base, this was one of the classic ritualistic moments. A fallen hero gets lifted and folded and placed in such a gentle, simple way.
Here he comes again from the right field bullpen, the Tugger.
I didn't feel comfortable being separated from the other guys, but you know, and maybe the other guys voted me out, like survivors.
Thank you, fans. On behalf of Paul Owens and the 1980 World Championship baseball team, the Philadelphia Phillies, I want to thank you, fans, for being part of our 20th year reunion. Seems like a long time, but we are very, very proud of what we accomplished. I've been in baseball 45 years. I've been in Chicago, in New York, but nobody will touch the Philadelphia Philly fans. We love you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dallas. Not one of us up here will ever forget the day after the Phillies won the 1980 World Championship, that unbelievable parade down Broad Street onto JFK Stadium for a rally before millions of fans. It's something that's etched in our memories forever, with a love affair between this ball club and you great fans. So let's reenact that parade down Broad Street right now as this 1980 World Championship team will take a victory lap around Veterans Stadium. Here they are, the world champs.
Vet. Been coming here 26 years of my 31-year-old life, working, fan, love it. It's the only place I know. Surely missed.
A lot of memories.
Yeah. I really can't think of anything to say.
I said it for us.
I loved every minute of it. Change is good. Here's to the vet.
Last night at the vet.
To the vet.
Out of here. 33 years. Thanks for the memories. It's been great. My home. This is Larry Schenk. Yes, it seems like Veterans Stadium was my real home. For me and hundreds of other people in the Phillies family, this was a special place filled with wonderful memories and lifelong friendships. All of us will never forget the closing ceremonies after the last game. In planning the event, we wanted to create one more lasting memory of the vet and bring tears to some 60,000 pair of eyes. We believe we accomplished both. Then came the move out of the offices. In the days before the final office lights were turned out, two of the brightest flames in our long history were extinguished. Within a few days of each other, Paul Owens and Tug McGraw both lost their long, brave battle with illness, but they left behind a warm legacy of great achievements and even greater character. They'll both live forever in countless late-night stories and in our hearts. When I think of Paul Owens, I often think of a young Phillies employee he helped to inspire. I'll let him tell the story.
This is Ed Wade. I began my Phillies career as an intern for Larry Shank in 1977, and that's when my path first crossed with Paul Owens. He was at the pinnacle of his career. As Phillies general manager, he had built the ball club into a National League powerhouse, using a nucleus of all-star players he had drafted as farm director and filling in the necessary pieces through trades. He was as good a judge of talent as has ever lived, but also he had the ability to see into a player's heart. Under his watch, the Phillies enjoyed their most successful era, going to the postseason 6 times in 8 years. In 1983, he even managed the team to a pennant, and the sight of him running around the vet turf like a little boy was something to behold. Yet for all his success, he was one of the most down-to-earth people you could ever meet. He was a friend to everyone in the organization, from the PR intern to the star player. He might not always remember your name, but he knew what you did, and he knew that you were part of his team. Aside from his passion for life and love of the game, probably his greatest trait was his loyalty. He had chances to change his direction many times, but elected to stay with the Phillies for an incredible 48 years, with a record of accomplishment that will be impossible to equal. In the later years, Paul served as an advisor to the ball club and proved to be an invaluable resource to me when I took over as GM in 1997. It was an honor to have a man of his credentials and character to help as a guide in my career. And while Paul was a fixture around the ballpark each season, there was one special time of year that he loved the most: spring training. Yet he'd rarely watch the big league club play at Jack Russell Stadium, instead choosing to spend countless hours on the rooftop of a building named in his honor, watching young minor leaguers play ball. Of all the various aspects of professional baseball, Paul Owens loved player development the most. Watching a field of raw, talented kids and trying to see into their future was his ultimate passion. Paul didn't make it to spring training this year. He was too busy fighting chronic respiratory problems. But there was no way he was going to miss the annual presentation of the award in his own name, given to the outstanding minor league player and pitcher in the organization. And 2 days later, he summoned the strength to participate in the closing ceremonies at the Vet. It was there that he got a final curtain call from the legions of fans who watched his players over the years, a fitting ending to a great career and a great baseball life. Sitting with Paul as the entire history of the past 33 years paraded before us was one of the greatest thrills of my life. Many of those players and the great memories they created came courtesy of Mr. Paul Owens. But the star of the show that day was a man who had been through his own ordeal that year, a man responsible for the greatest moment at Veterans Stadium. I'll let his best friend tell that story.
This is Larry Christensen. I began my big league career in the early 70s and found an instant friend in Tug McGraw. By the time Tug got to Philly, he was already an established veteran with 2 World Series under his belt. We were a young team looking for an identity, and he helped provide it. Not only did he bring a great work ethic filled with fun and excitement, but he also preached a sense of team unity. He constantly reminded us that we had the greatest job in the world, being a big league baseball player, and should enjoy it to the hilt. Tug was a great organizer of team parties, bonding the players and their wives into one big family. And of course, he brought that Irish leprechaun's view of the world with him every day. His on-field heroics were legendary, especially the incredible run during the second half of the '80 season, his unhittable pitches down the stretch drive, and the gut-wrenching performance during the postseason. He took the ball night after night, running on fumes, and somehow got us to the promised land. Tug and I retired around the same time, and we both chose to remain in our adopted city. Tug became a fixture in town, never straying too far from the public spotlight. In 2000, he organized another huge party, bringing back the world champions to celebrate with a 20-year reunion. He was delighted when the Phillies brought him back into uniform 2 years ago as a spring training pitching coach. He always seemed happiest around the ballpark. Last spring, Tug was diagnosed with cancerous brain tumors. Facing an uncertain prognosis, he met the challenge head-on, vowing to try to beat the disease. He got his affairs in order, writing his memoirs, creating the Tug McGraw Foundation, and spent quality time with his family and friends. But the one thing that really surprised Tug the most was the outpouring of affection from the fans.
From the minute his illness was revealed, he was flooded with get-well wishes and expressions of love. And when he finally had the strength to make it to the ballpark, he really found out what he meant to the people of Philadelphia. It was a summer-long love fest, as good as any medicine he could receive. Of course, it all culminated on that beautiful September day when the Tugger, fittingly, threw the last pitch at Veterans Stadium. It was the end of an era in many ways, and a wonderful, lasting image of Tug McGraw and Paul Owens.
I think those people taught us some things. Pope taught us we're all teammates here. You know, regardless of where you worked for the Phillies, you were his teammate. And he treated all of us. Anybody that worked in the sales office met the Pope, you know, you got the same hug. I said the other day, and I'm going to try to lighten up, I said the other day, sitting at a service, I realized as I sat there, I'd never been kissed by a man more than I was by the Pope. He taught us how to do that. And you know, Bill always said, and we all, I think, have thought it was right, that you come here and you work hard and you have fun. Nobody did it better than Tug. He competed hard, he had fun, and he made it fun for everyone else.
Phillies are the 1983 National League champions.
Paul, what does a scout look for when he's studying a young prospect?
I think there's four things to look for, Richie, and as far as ability is concerned, and that's his ability to hit and run and field and throw. There's really four basics that you look for.
See you all when we get home, man. This is it. We're going all the way.
For New York City to take this world championship and stick it, because we're number